Chapter 3 In the Shadow of the Colossus. Sergeant Suspic awoke to the sounds of the jungle. He relished the peaceful moment, for it was rare for a soldier to know peace. But then he heard something more natural to him than the sound of a mother soothing her baby. Gunfire. Knowing only war his entire life, his natural reaction was to grab the gun holstered on his leg. But what he saw made him scream like an Asian prostitute who's finding out her client died. In place of his leg was a metallic limb that ended in a 4-digit claw. Scribbled across the limb were heartfelt comments like, "Get well soon," and "You'll be okay." But as his eyes looked further downwards, he could see lewd comments and pornographic images of men hastily drawn. He could recognize some of the handwriting, and he vowed to desecrate them once he could make sense of the situation, for all he could see was fiery chaos everywhere he looked. His second thought was to search for Corporal Squidicus, for surely he would know what havoc was being wreaked upon their campsite. He removed the wires attached all over his body, and watched the pulsing machines die down in silence, but he was puzzled when he noticed most of them were attached to his crotch. He put his normal leg over one side of the bed, and the monstrosity took a lot more effort and more so than he realized when he fell down. He cursed in languages he did not know, and ducked as a wooden pillar crashed down on his former resting spot. His metallic leg was not so fortunate, but he was amazed when he realized he didn't feel a thing, and his limb wasn't scratched even the slightest. Finding a newfound purpose in life, Sergeant Suspic pried the handgun from the cold, dead fingers of his attending nurse and made his way outside of the medical tent. And what he saw was marvelous, but downright terrifying. He felt his soul cry out in terror. Countless corpses littered the campsite, all mutilated and all with their mouths slack-jawed in perpetual fear. What could have made these brave men leave this world with such fear in their eyes, moment before death? His eyes were drawn to a moving figure in the center, right next to a gigantic bonfire that wasn't there before. Corporal Squidicus was stripped down to the waist, and he was covered in bleeding cuts and wounds that looked mortal but did not appear to affect him. The sight before him stupefied him in awe and abject horror. Corporal Squidicus was fighting murderous-looking Viet Cong, armed with sabers longer than his forearm, and on ferocious tiger mounts. Their leader appeared to be riding a black panther, and he was a gigantic thing, bigger even than Corporal Squidicus. Corporal Squidicus was panting hard, an unbelievable thing that he would not have believed if he did not see it with his own eyes. Behind him were 10 or so Viet Cong, slain alongside their war mounts, some of which had bite marks and chunks of flesh ripped right off their tough hides. Such was the raw brutality of Corporal Squidicus. The remaining 9 Viet Cong surrounded Corporal Squidicus, circling him like a pack of hyenas around a wounded lion. Sergeant Suspic knew he had to help him, otherwise even the prodigious strength of Corporal Squidicus would falter.
"Corporal Squidicus, I'm aiding my leech,"
he screamed at the top of his lungs, firing his pistol as he ran towards them. Everything happened in slow motion. 2 of the Viet Cong members' heads were blown off by his battle-honed aim, with their feline mounts resorting to their feral nature with the loss of their masters, tearing into the other tigers. In the ensuing frenzy, the leader reared his war mount, just as Corporal Squidicus let loose a roar that chilled him to the bone, and the two jumped at one another. Just then, a blinding light exploded from somewhere, and Sergeant Suspic saw nothing.